does everybody have a great day at work? No. The formula I'll speak about is more so the 80-20 roll on. If 80% of your career is great, 20% there's a grind. So are you going to love everything every day? No, because if you do, you're probably not working.
If I could go back in my lifetime and say, what's a big mistake? I wish I figured this out earlier.
Ask questions, ask why.
It takes a special leader to help you grow in a certain role.
Doesn't matter how I speak, doesn't matter how I look.
And it holds true as you think big and don't let anybody stop you.
Now that's a success story. Thanks everybody for joining us on this edition of Success Stories. Today we have a special local guest in Northeastern Ohio, Adam Hickman. He accomplished author, keynote speaker, sits on multiple boards, multiple titles. Adam, I'm going to let you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself a little bit more in depth, but thanks for being on today.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And let me start with congratulations on all the things that you've done locally. It's we share similar backgrounds or where we graduated from, and nothing better to see than our own folks succeeding. So congrats on the show and all the things that you've done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So short story, and I played around with AI to say, how do I say this short? And what's funny is AI couldn't do it. So I don't think I could do it. Here's the best way I can say. I am a product of the Rust Belt area with a broken family that was told often and frequent, you couldn't do something or can't do something, which fueled me to do what I do. So often I'll hear, how do you do what you do? Or how do you find time? I don't know. I just, I just have, yeah, I've just found the burn and passion that when someone says you can't, it's my, I guess talent sets that says, okay. And silently I'll go do it often and frequent. And when I'm done, I'll come back to remind you I did it.
There you go. There you go.
That's
Well,
the short say. Yeah.
well, let's talk about your career arc and your journey. We always talk about the winding road because there aren't too many people, especially in our area, Northeast Ohio, who growing up, they have a mindset or they have a goal, and it's a very linear path straight to achieving that goal. Right there, we always talk about the winding road. People barricades along the way. Sometimes you get a little helping hand that you weren't expecting or you were hoping for along the way. Let's talk about that. Kind of where did your success story start, coming out of, I guess, Crestview High School?
Yeah. Well, let me admit now, I thought the WWF was my path forward. I was, I was, I was
Never
putting a
give
lot
up
of
on
eggs.
your dream.
No, like I was putting a lot of eggs in that basket. Hasn't worked out yet, but maybe one day. Um, yeah, so when I graduated, I had heard often again throughout high school and even specific, I think the term's guidance counselor, but I really hesitate that we use the word guidance, um, that I probably was more fit for military, not to go to college. And at the time, I didn't know anything. You only know what you know. And I had heard it from other places as well and thought, well, maybe I'll entertain that. But I mean, knock on wood, I didn't, because 2002 would have been a rough go at where I would have been. Actually, a few of us that graduated from there, I saw exactly where they went, and they went right overseas. So opted out of that. But the Ohio State Patrol seemed interesting. Again, I had some love for the big boss man. I think that was maybe what drove that, and I explored that.
That's funny.
So the short story is I went through most of the process at that time. Also, Alicia, my wife, had came into the picture and helped start to nudge me on what she didn't want more so than what we did want to do.
Right.
And so that wasn't going to be a life that would work out for us. So um, I jumped aboard with AT&T just on an accident. I think it was one of the bigger places that was here that was hiring, and I had just left the airport in Pittsburgh where I was working, which was a phenomenal job, by the way. You need exercise and you want to be around friends. That was throwing luggage. There's nothing like it. Uh, and there I spent close to about 10 years in various roles and positions, but one was aimed at the AT&T University side of things. But the ticket for me was like they would travel you all over the place. And, in this area, we don't leave our county sometimes, let
Right.
alone the state. So I thought, oh, that's cool. Let's try this out. And so jumped aboard there, and they started traveling me like crazy. And that just fueled the people side of me, which was I was meeting people left, I mean, all over the place of all different backgrounds and history and education. And,
That
it's funny.
exposure you don't get in Northeast Ohio, right? Yeah.
No, not at all. And it's funny
Yeah.
because they would say like, where did you go to school at? I'm like, nah, just outside of Cleveland. So I claim that. Um, and it fueled the like, there's more that can be done. It broke through that barrier of actually like we were a small town, but there's so much more that's out there. So away we went. I took different roles that brought us all over the United States, that pushed me all over the place, and through a series of what I call happy accidents, um, I met some really great connections along the way, and have never minimized the effect of a great network. Often I'll say in conversations that if something's not working, you got to network, because it's not a paid service. Just make great relationships, right?
Yeah.
There's the give and take of what that is, and if you're giving more than taking, it'll come back to you twofold. So I spent time with AT&T, spent time with a public utility company in Michigan. It was an interesting run. I'm not a public utility guy. I didn't know much about the energy world, but I knew an awful lot about HR and OD and L&D things. And so was able to join there and help run that for about 2 years. And if you're not wild and passionate about a product, you probably got a short career.
Yeah.
And I knew it. So Gallup was kind of the North Star at the time of where to go and what to do. And I, one night said, here we go, let's try this out. I had heard multiple times it's almost impossible to get in there. And now knowing my driver for things, I'm like, all right, well, let's try that out. And so
Challenge
six
accepted.
6 months of interviewing back and forth.
Really?
Uh, yep, came aboard, and we were like, we got to go to Omaha, Irving, or Washington, D.C. And I said, well, Omaha looks similar to our area we grew up. Let's try that out. So jumped out to Omaha and spent some time there. Great place. Omaha Steaks is legit if you can ever get out there. But again, huge city. I mean, it was just I can't remember how many school districts there were per your address, which was mind blowing to us because we had one. And it just the more our family grew, we knew we needed to come back home to
Hmm.
surround ourselves with that. So we moved back home and still stayed with Gallup. And then I hit a point with Gallup where it's a huge brand, small company in size of employees. And I don't want to say I'd done it all in our space, but I had done quite a bit, and just thought there's more I could be doing. There's more I could be offering, and I'm not willing to coast yet. So the best part of Gallup is they're so open and transparent and family oriented that it was great conversations. I had probably one of the greatest bosses there, and he just made a determination it was time to jump. And I kid you not, that same day I had a inbox from recruiter from Partners through Disney, and I said, okay, let's talk. And here we are. So
Really?
3 years ago, 4 days ago, is when I jumped aboard here and have been here since.
Wow. Wow. And you've also been a lifelong learner, right? You
Yeah.
consider yourself an academic?
No, because no, I don't
Yeah.
know. And here's why: like I hated school. I still did. I mean, I love the social aspect of it, but my first when I went to Hiram College, that was kind of the first gateway until that there are certain things I just didn't care about. So, and Hiram being a liberal arts school, you get it all. And so I remember the day I registered for oceanography, I was like, it sounds horrible. And then I went and picked up my textbook, and they gave us this blow up globe of the world. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And it continued to get worse and be worse. So I'm not an advocate for it. Water is blue and wet. That's all I need to know. But when you get past that, then you get into your niche area of, okay, human development, org development, HR, even down to labor law. Uh, that had an interest in me, and so it really didn't come to light till and getting into an MBA program of some sort. And then it was just really the competition on how far can I go? Because if you don't live in your hometown where you've got a lot of distractions, that's life. I had nothing else to do, so I was on the road quite a bit. We were in an area, on weekends. We didn't have many people we were connecting with just yet, And so I filled it with school. I just said I'll make the furthest reach I can get with this, and then I wound up never stopping and 4 degrees later. And so the thing that I try and remind folks is there's a term out there that you'll hear scholar practitioner or practitioner scholar, and I always say, well, I'm neither. I'm just a guy from Ohio that has done things backwards where I didn't go to school right away. I got a whole bunch of practical experience from big organizations. I was a union rep at the airport. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just a young, dumb kid that would do and say as the old timers would tell me to do. Uh, and then I got the experience to know, like, well, the book says this. That's actually not true at all. It doesn't work
Yeah.
a thing like
Right?
that.
Yeah, right.
So you can theorize all you want, but people are messy. So what do you do when the book says this and then we take a hard right turn? And I think that is what has brought a lot of great experiences my way on. Like I hear you on what that says, but it doesn't work.
Right, right. You can have a real life conversation based upon your experience with it. You're not just talking theory. You can guide people. You can talk through it. Well, you talked about a couple bosses along the way. What are some key ways that they helped develop you or guided you? Sometimes maybe not even you knowing, right? Because sometimes our mentors or bosses have a different route for us that we might not even know yet, especially early on in our careers. Did that ever happen to you? And kind of how did they help guide you?
Yeah, yeah. Let's go back to the days. You might know this guy's name, Coach Reno. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We're actually going to see him tomorrow. He had
Yeah.
just had a recent surgery that we're gonna go. Lauk and I are gonna go down and see him. He was probably the first one that dialed into. He knew upbringings and things of that sort. And I wasn't the all-star athlete I'm claimed to be. It was actually more fun for me to not be, because I felt like I was the Kevin Hart of the team for quite a while, even though I was taller than him. But you had a good time. If I was around, we were going to have a blast.
Yeah, right.
Um, and him knowing that, he just kept me in the position where I was a part of it, not to the extreme, because that wasn't a need for me or desire. It was just being a part of something. Um, but still developed in terms of maturity of things that I just wasn't getting from other places. So he stepped into places that coached me along the way and pushed me to probably stay out of stuff I shouldn't have been involved with, which was great. Uh, but it was the individualizing to me that kind of woke me up the first day of like somebody I'm going to follow, even to this day. Yeah, that was an attribute to it. So fast forward till now, um, the best bosses I have. There's a line I say in an interview that I'm a dad, I'm a husband, and then I'm an employee. And if you blur those lines, I'm out. And the greatest bosses hear that and know what that means. The other ones are like, well, that's confusing, or what, like, tell me more about it. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you more about it. It's that clear. Like,
Yeah, it's black and white. It's pretty clear, right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's it. Um, and for those that have recognized, like, I don't need the billboards or the recognition on certain things. Like, if we're going to chase an award, I got it. Uh, but if you want to recognize me in a way that give me time back with my family, or ask me questions about my kids, or don't just start with, hey, how was your weekend? Like, the best know we were at what we were doing because they care enough to ask about that.
Yep.
That to me goes, way further. The horrible bosses I have, and I mean horrible, I've had two really toxic. Most of my stories I write about are about them. I just changed the name. They just did the exact opposite, which was you're an employee number, you're an employee here, which is, hey, if that's the way you want to serve it, but you're not going to get the best of me, and I'll be on my way out just as quick as I came in.
Yeah.
And it was just there's been some really bad experiences along the way that ultimately have been the greatest story for me to write about on what to avoid. And what's always interesting to me is if I take a swing at something of that sort, I'll get comments and messages on LinkedIn saying, like, thank you for saying that. I had no idea others experienced it, so on and so forth. And I said, yeah, like, horrible bosses is not just a movie, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah. But it doesn't need to be. It's just we've opted the ways to manage people that it works for the moment. It doesn't work for the long term.
Yeah.
And it probably is more burning on the manager than it is the employees.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say more for my kids, but you can learn something from everybody, every good experience and bad experience. And I used to tell my older kids, growing up through sports, of you're not going to have the best coach every year, right? You're going to have some bad coaches. You're going to have some coaches that are figuring it out. But even those bad coaches, you can learn what not to do, right? And that to
Yeah,
me is just as important as learning what to do.
sure.
And I take the same mindset into, for them of teaching them through their career of you're going to have bad bosses, learn along the way. Take
Right.
notes. You don't have to combat them, but just take notes of, yeah, this isn't good. I don't
Yeah.
like this. So whenever I have people under me or anybody I'm trying to lead the charge or be a leader,
Hmm.
learn what not to do.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you say it. Let me see if I can. So for the last, oh gosh, 6, 7 years, I write in this thing every day.
Yeah.
And it's a story of failures because ideally one day, when my kids are grown and old and I'm at that point, I'm going to hand it to them and say, let's learn from your dad. These are all my failures in life, from work to relationships to buying certain things. Uh, don't do any of these, and you should be good. But it's sometimes it's more reflective on me on I don't think about some things certain ways until I start to write that I tell somebody else about it. And that
Mm.
really shaped, I don't want to say one of the core values I have, but um, the way I would capture it is making sense of experiences. So doesn't matter what the experience is, good, bad, or indifferent. There's something that you can develop somebody else on based on that. And I hope to pass that to my kids, but that has moved into just common practice I have with our teams on if I screw up, I got it. I'll totally admit it's my fault, but I'll tell you why I screwed up and what was the decision point that made that happen. Similarly, if we're going into a conversation and I know something didn't go right, I'm less worried about um, somebody admitting it and more of what'd you get out of that? Because that specific, I don't know, it's failure, but it is that at some point. Um, if you've learned from it and you know the point which you have to pivot from there again, then we've increased your thinking skills and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But if it's totally blind to it, then that's where the coach on the field has to come on.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of a red flag if
Yep.
they can't see it. Yeah.
Sure.
So let's get to kind of where you're at now. We talked about the journey a little bit. What do you do on a day-to-day basis now? Kind of what's your role now
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with Disney
Yep. So
or
but
with
usually
everything that you're doing? Speaking engagement, the authors. Kind of
yes.
take me through your weeks, your days.
Yeah, it was July. It's crazy. Um, so when people think Disney, they usually think Disney proper, which is parks, movies, Disney Plus, where you see the name and all the hoopla that
Hmm.
comes along with what that is. Partners is an entity of the machine of Disney, where you've got Hulu, you've got Netflix, or I'm sorry, you have Hulu, ESPN, Pixar, Lucasfilms, so on and so forth. Partners is one of those tentacles. So if you rewind to the beginning of it, a different name where Walt Disney had opened up parks, but he also had a desire of his own specific financial service institution. Incomes, I believe Vista was the name at the point. And through the feds and other regulations, we had to separate in terms of how we are led with our own board of directors, our own CEO, our own practices, so on and
Hmm.
so forth. So at the end of the day, we're all cast members. The specific focus and that we have is in the financial services. So, for instance, if you join uh, Walt Disney from any facets of that, you're eligible to be a part of partners. Well, that opens up the gate to hundreds of thousands of members because Disney's 230-ish thousand employees worldwide across, and then specific in the United States, there's about 56,000 employees in Florida. I'm not certain the number recently in California, but we got a lot of people to serve. And so our specific divisions focuses on that. In my area, what I lead is all things related to org development, people development, and culture. So from the very basics of, let's say you wanted to do a restructure of your division. Well, that involves people, so you got to involve me. And I'm not coming in as the police to find out are you doing it right or wrong. It's more on, hey, if you're going to make a change, let's talk structure of people. I can tell you based on research, if you have more than 12 people on your team, we're going to risk engagement unless you've got mega, manager talent in front of you. Let's talk titles. Let's make sure compensation serving both California and Florida. There's some very strict laws on pay and transparency and things related to this. In California, the meal laws that are in place and things of that sort. It's just to make sure you're set away when you roll this out. We don't slip on anything. And recently, there's this one individual on LinkedIn. I can't think of her name right now, but she's an attorney for. I think she loves to fight HR people, from what I've seen. And every time I see some, I'm like, I'm gonna comment. I'm gonna comment, and I never do. But I think yesterday was I arrived at. I'm gonna send her a message. I have no idea who she is, to say, can we just chat? Because we're not the bad guys. And so often I think HR is considered. I always say, like, we're not the cops. We're not
Yeah.
showing up after something's gone wrong. If you involve us early and often, ideally these things go more successful because we get people. You get operations and you get how
Mhm.
to run the show. But when you involve a human, it can get messy. And you've got experts in your field in this company that can help you make things go a lot smoother than if we just make the announcement and expect, because that stems from the command and control type of culture that works in certain industries. I will not discard that. When you're public utility and you're about to have some sort of an arc that hits you from the power lines, you don't need coach. You just need told, don't stand there.
Yeah.
So but majority of the time the other side works on, we're looking for the Ted Lasso coaches of the world that can help you grow in that space, but also develop. And the what we try to do the most is that. So what comes with that is uh, that's the day job. But I think it's more of a competition strength than me on. I don't like to fall behind, and so the speaking engagements, the all things that I'm tied into in parallel world of HR, it's not a way to gloat or for us to promote things or in that sort. And often the times, um, they're more after my dissertation topic than anything. Uh, but when I go to these, I'm usually testing something out. So I've got an idea. I'm going to pitch it like we've been doing this for years, because I've got the greatest minds in the audience that are going to, afterwards, when I ask them, they've got no skin in the game. So they're going to
Right.
say, Hickman, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Or how did you do that? Or show us. And to me, that's my indicator on this was a this was a failure. We got to quit right away. Or this was, hey, this has legs. We got to do something with it that the more than what we have. And
Might be
I mean,
something there. Yeah.
yeah, think of all things AI. We've been talking AI at these conferences like everybody knows we're doing. We don't know, right? But we're figuring out along the way, and that's the best way to do it. So I'm very specific to which conferences we go to because I know who's in the audience, and I'm more interested in their opinion on what we're doing, more so than actually the topic that we're
Hmm.
talking about.
It's an interesting take on the keynote of
Hmm.
using that as a testing or a
Yep.
little focus group almost of getting some feedback on where you're going to run to. It's
Yep.
interesting. I like it. I like it. I enjoy when I get surprised by things like that and people are trying to manipulate things without other people knowing about it. I enjoy that.
Yep.
So, um, something you said a little bit ago, it kind of always it reminds me of something that I heard during my early entrepreneur journey is that 90% of business problems are people problems.
Sure.
Do you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I always say people or process. It's one of the two. And in the greatest errors, it's both. And the people problem stems from the mindset of, well, we've hired you. Your resume said you could do it. The interview said you could do it. I told you at the start of, our introduction what to go do, and it's not working out. But that is low manager talent. I think the fun saying people always say is like, we're looking for coaches, not bosses. Now that I 100% believe, because the coaching mindset, I always use Lasso as the best experience for that. Like we're looking for that on the field. If you're a skybox manager, meaning you're up,
Hmm.
then you ought to be a CEO or at least CFO area type role where you're making the calls from the box. But often they don't come down out of that box to get in the grind of things. They've got those on the field that are the Lassos of the world, and they make the operations work. When there's a mismatch to that, uh, people problems exist almost overnight, and it's to the point now where the countries that I've been to, the places that I've been and seen, it doesn't matter where we are, who's involved, or what religion or what race, they're all the same problems. And it's that there's either historical context or core values of an organization that's a mismatch for how it's being ran. In just the short time that you can take to breathe in what's going on, you can root it right back to the people problem of things. And even in the coaching that I'll do with leaders, all facets of roles, when we dial into it, it's a people problem.
Yeah. How often do you do the consulting? I know you talked about your day to day, your 9 to 5. What all do you do outside of that?
Yeah, I guess consulting has such the weight of like it's a thing that's all of the stuff that comes along with that. The way that in my mind that I frame it is if I know you and you're in need of something that I can offer to you, I'm just a guy from a small town. First of all, like why me? Why would you want me to help you? Is usually the point. The fun one was oh gosh, maybe a year ago it was I got contacted to go over to Saudi Arabia to do more or less an hour on HR specific topics they wanted to talk to. But just the group that was in the audience, you had Nestle that was from over there, you had a couple people from the royal family. We're at a dinner and I always crack up because I'm hearing these stories of, oh, we went to Harvard, we went to Yale, we went to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, where did you go? I'm like, Hiram. What do you, what do you got for that? um, but the short of it is you might be the most prolific academic in the world, but if you don't have the practical application of how these things work, then you don't do it. And I've had the benefit of seeing many things succeed and fail along the line. So the way that I'll fit it in is I go right back to my formula. If it doesn't interfere with me being a dad or me being a husband, I'll fit it in somewhere. When can that happen? I don't know. It just depends on the era. Like summertime's a bust because 3 kids is no joke when everybody's in cross country and swimming and track and tennis and school. So it's just I feel
Taxi
like I'm an
cab.
Uber driver.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's it.
bingo.
That's it.
Yeah. So when I can and when the person that's asking has the similar passion and burn that I have, because there's some that I'll throw you a couple articles to read, but if I know I'm going up against something that's not worth the time and energy, something that I got early on is from mentors is spend your time wisely. And if I don't think there's something there if I'm gonna run into it right off the go, I'll just let you know, like, hey, we're not a fit. I'm not a match. Like, there's other people. There's a plethora of people out there that go find them. But I'm out.
We talked about the practical experience versus
Yeah.
the academic training. Which one's more important? And you're and you
Yeah.
can't say 50-50 because right, one
Um,
has to be more important, right?
yeah. So segment that. I would say early on in your career, to get you in the doors, I still believe having the education experience shows a discipline and run that you know the basics. Now, the higher you climb in your career, um, you need your war stories, and you can have a gut feeling on something. Actually, if you ever read Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman, it's a super thick book, and it's an effort. Like
Yeah.
don't try and read a book cover to cover. It, it's a super academic read, but it's great in terms of understanding your bias or thinking and how logical versus emotional that we are. And heads up, we're more emotional than anything else. Uh, so I do think the grounding of just the basics in education helps you have an appreciation and understanding for how the world frames things, why people do certain things. But then you get into the workforce, and that's where the application side of it comes different. That's why I always say my upbringing was completely different because I didn't get that at first. I think it was Teamsters Union was it, but I was saying and doing stuff. I didn't know what to do. I was just like, hey, I get paid more, and like everybody here likes me because I'm now in this position that I can go say stuff. I had no idea what I was doing, but it brought to the point where now when we're working in anything labor law wise, I have a whole understanding of
The other side.
why this matters because I was the other side for that for a short period
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah.
So it's not both, but I would say it's as you progress, the experiences is what makes you monetarily more valuable to other organizations and your current organization because you're not starting from a point of I've got to go research this or dig into this. It's like, okay, like the bell rang, so I now know what we're up against or what we're about to go do because I've experienced this before.
Yeah. Yeah. it's interesting you say that because you say it much more eloquently than I do. But I always tell my kids, you might not learn anything from school in that
Mhm.
degree, but what that degree does is it opens the doors for you. And
Yeah.
if you can't get the door open, it's a hard nut to crack to get in there to kind of get your career started. So allow yourself every opportunity to open those doors up, and that's one of the
Yeah.
easiest things you can do, or one of the not easiest, I guess, but the most practical things you can do is you get that degree, so that way you have just another, another tool in your tool belt.
Yeah. Everyone that debates the do you need a degree, do you not need a degree conversation. I don't have a strong opinion on it. All I will say is when you read job requisitions and the minimum qualification says you must have, it's really a mute point at that point because if you don't, most of these application tracking systems kick you right out of it from the start if you click no.
Yeah.
And so, do you need that? I don't know. There's some companies that you can crush it and not have a degree. Uh, I think the skilled labor, the last that when I was at Gallup, that we dug into it was one of the most open fields that no one's coming out of high school anymore saying, hey, I want to go into welding or I want to go into, I think small commercial pilot was the biggest absent. Uh, you don't need a 4-year degree to do those. You can get a trade school degree for it and you can make a lot of great money involved with that. But at least at that time, the current generation wasn't coming out the door saying, I'm ready to go into a hot factory and weld or,
Yeah.
fill in the blank. It was more, not IT specific, but something tech oriented and
Mm.
building and, entrepreneurial mindset more so.
Yeah, yeah. And I never got my degree, so maybe that's just why I just said, I'm going to skip working for somebody else and just start my own thing, so that way I don't have
Which
to
I
have
love.
it. I don't have to check that box.
Uh,
So let's talk about the future. Where are you going? What you ever have that entrepreneurial spirit? You ever gonna make a jump, or what do you see in your future?
I'm lucky I get till tomorrow. Uh, sure, there's always the burn, and I think it's this area, Steve. I think something in the magic of Chris, you created the entrepreneurial mindset. I don't know who did it. I don't know where it came from, but I do see. I mean, if you just close your eyes, think of the landscape of those we grew up with.
Mhm.
It's not uncommon. So, like when I first learned, I'm like, yeah, I can see Steve doing that. Of course, yeah. And then, I mean, just watching your success over the years, I'm like. Yeah, because he gets it and he's not going to stop. And so, where sometimes I don't know, I mean, and if it ever comes back to you, but I'll drop your name left and right and start being like, why don't you just call Steve? Why don't you just call Steve? Or if you need something, just, and then there's the silly stuff where I'll call you like, Steve, I'm in dire need. I don't know who else to call.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what we're
so,
here
and
for.
yeah, and I just see that with other individuals that's within that. The thing that, for me, Disney's partners has been great. The experience I've got, I've still got really close ties to Gallup and the relationships that are established there. I've never burned. Everyone says you burn a bridge. I'm like, well, it's not really a bridge; it's a relationship. So can we just call it that? I've kept all things open, not for the sense of ever jumping. But the point where I unplug is when I feel like I don't have any other stories that I can build from this
Hmm.
to help develop me um, or help further certain conversations for me to give back to other people. And I'll tell you, partners, there is not a shortage of stories
Yeah.
that I won't get. We've got so much going on and just the depth of what we're doing. We've got a great CEO that, I mean, he's such a people oriented person and caring. It was 2 nights ago. I do this thing where I jump online about 8:30 and scan to see on my team if anybody's on. If you're on, I'm going to kick you offline because it can wait. Well, he's on, and I think he was in Utah, and we were just normal conversation that, some people panic. We're like, oh, it's a CEO. I'm like, yeah, but it's Ricky. Like, he's great. It doesn't matter. So it's, we're back and forth. And that to me will build longevity of a career on if you've got great leaders and leadership that push you. And I just got a new chief people officer in the role, Patty. She's also fantastic, gets it. She's got so much experience in things that I don't still yet have to learn from. So, does everybody have a great day at work? No. The formula I'll speak about is more so the 80-20 roll on. If 80% of your career is great, 20% there's a grind. So are you going to love everything every day? No, because if you do, you're probably not working. Uh, but if 80% of that's fantastic, then revel in that and appreciate what that is, and that will keep you going. So I'd say now if you had to cut mine's a 90-10. We've got great things. So no
Good.
desire to leap jump anything at the same point. When my youngest is 9, and 10 years from now when she's ready to move, she's also my youngest daughter, so I'm gonna follow her wherever she goes. Um, yeah, maybe I'll turn the end engine up, but for now, I've got my primary group that I help and support, and if I could fit you in based on life, and it's not a ginormous lift on certain things, sure, I'll jump in there.
So in your operations world and that leadership HR world, what are new trends, not fads that are coming, but are you
Sure.
guys what's on the horizon for your industry? Anything,
Yeah.
groundbreaking, or is it just kind of the evolution of the industry?
Yeah, I'd love to not say AI, but
I know it's
people would like
everywhere.
to, man, everybody would
Yeah.
rip me if I didn't say it. Actually, the last conference I spoke at, this is so bad. I intentionally get on stage and I said, I am not going to say the word AI again today. So for the next hour, do not anticipate that. If that's what you want, you're in the wrong room for it. Little did I know that the person behind me was coming that has an AI company. And I got off stage and she's like, "Do you really hate AI?" I'm like, "No, I'm just tired of hearing about it. So I'm not
Yeah,
going to talk about it. Like there's some basics blocking and tackling we need to get done yet." And
yeah.
I'll start there. So the trends there are more aimed at what I would call per person productivity, where people are so worried about it replacing them. And I was just like, well, then you want to worry about it, you go for it. I'm going to spend more time on how do I get more productivity out of our lines, our people, with augmenting AI into the roles that they do. And so I've spoke to actually one of the guys that helped develop the algorithm for Alexa. I make sure she's listen. I was like, you're the AI guru, man. Like you helped build the thing. And I said, what's your biggest advice? And he was like, just go try them all out, find out what works. And when you find one that works, go underground on how much you can use it. And usually our team's the beta team for a lot because I love trying stuff out. Uh, we did just that. Within the walls of our cybersecurity, because that's a huge topic one day we should chat about. We tried them out, and Copilot, ChatGPT, Gamma is a phenomenal. Actually, I would love to see your opinion, Steve, on Gamma, given the role that you serve. It's a crazy AI software, but it makes decks, web pages, like for the common fool that can't do it.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. Napkin AI just takes a whole bunch of words and creates these constructs that are sometimes too good. I'm like, dang it. And so we played around with most of within our field on how can we do performance reviews? How do we give coaching tips? We'll take somebody's disc profile and strengths profile, ask ChatGPT, hey, what can you tell me about this person? We did one recently where I got really bored one day, and I'm part of a couple of different Facebook groups related to AI for work stuff, and the prompts for images started coming out, and so we were making Pixar images like you couldn't believe, and that just turned into a day where we all changed our photo in our meeting to what that
Mm.
was, the guess who's who and whatnot, even down to recently we were in Boston and I mapped out where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do, and I asked AI to develop the best plan forward for what this was. And I couldn't have done it. I mean, to me, I was like, that's the old school AAA triptych that would tell you how to do this.
Yeah,
But
right. The flat.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was done in seconds. So we use it. My team uses it on the daily as they should. But what we have agreed upon is some of our not just corporate values, but team values on if you experience work with us. If we're going to use AI, I'm going to tell you that we're going to use it. So you never have to second guess. Like, why yesterday could you write only a paragraph, and then today you're the most prolific writer that looks like an art, masterpiece of what you've written. Like we
Yeah.
know. So, and then just the counterbalances as we upskill our managers, how are they using it in conjunction with how to increase engagement performance on the teams? That's not weird as well. So, if you're a manager that's few words and your performance review comes back, 7 pages, well, then what was the prompt that you used? Because we need to reteach you how to use a prompt that will get you to more sounding like you, not the
Yeah.
AI you.
Yeah, the fictitious character that you're
Yeah,
portraying.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have to temper any concerns, or how do you do training for the managers of people worrying about, AI taking? Because you have a unique role and perspective where I am, we implement AI. So
Yeah.
we are for companies, trying to basically make them more profitable, more efficient by use of AI. Um, and I know with 100% certainty, we have taken people's jobs away, right? But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you don't feel good about that.
Hmm.
But I also think, like you said, it's not about always AI taking your job and being scared about it. It's how do you embrace AI and how do you make yourself more valuable to the company
Right.
with your processes, with your knowledge that AI can't supplant you. So
Right.
how do you guys have any like directive or strategy on pushing that down, that narrative?
Yeah.
Because
First
you're on the
starting
opposite
point.
side, of
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
where we're at.
And I, as much as I hate saying it, like, yes, AI has definitely eliminated at least one role I can think of with on my team, and it's the worst day in the world. Uh, but it happened, and it'll continue to happen if others don't embrace. How do you look at
Right.
your scoreboard and say, my scoreboard's even brighter because of what we've done with this? And that's the nitty gritty work of time studies that everybody hates and all the other things. The way that I feel like we've protected it correctly is, again, you go back to your company core values. We are never going to tell a story based on AI. So when you experience the brand of things, there's a rhythm to what we do and how we do it. That's why the songs get stuck in your head, why your kids are so infatuated with things, why our products and services we offer have a narrative and a story that's not going to be a machine, right? We still, the thing I always say is AI is only as smart as it makes you sound. Because by the way, you got to fact check it, uh, and it lacks a head and a heart that you've got, and so it'll never have that. Um, this is very crusty. Here we go. Um, I can't believe I'm going to say this. Garth Brooks has a song "Man versus Machine." Just give it a listen. If you can't stand country, just give it a listen. And it was so long ago, but what he was talking about, I think, was more factory stuff in there. But now I'm like, man, if he did that again, that has total different context because the machine's on a screen at this point. And
Mm.
so, man, whatever you want to say to that, it was just the first time I had heard something like that. I'm like, well, that's actually pretty legit in our terms. So push it down into the organization. What we're not going to do, and we've got our non-negotiables. What we're also not going to do is load things into a platform that has the risk of, if it were puts us at any sort of risk, IT or cybersecurity, not going to happen. So we spend intentional time scrubbing names. We never put member data into it. There's things that we're going to safeguard from the start. And if you do, we're really clear on the consequences of what comes with that. What we are nudging and initiating is we've got a fantastic cyber team here that will do these road shows, and we just will pull up and say, like, "What are you doing?" I think, Steve, I remember you heard me say, I heard you say once that you don't, you give time back to local universities and kids that are learning your field and industry.
Hmm.
I would say it's very similar to that in terms of we're just doing that inside our own walls. So we can show up and say, "Hey, here's an AI boot camp. What is the task that just drives you nuts that you can't help? And then can we find a way in
Yeah.
which to use Copilot to help you
Let's investigate.
do?"
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that just gives the comfortability on what we can and can't because not everybody has that opportunity to.
Yeah. Well, we, a lot of times we get come in to consult on AI implementation, and AI cannot fix a process problem,
Right.
right? All it does is it puts a spotlight on it. And oftentimes we come in for discovery. We go through, all right, what do what's the current process? What's the goal you're trying to achieve? And we bring to light, to management, to stakeholders.
Hmm.
You're not automating this yet because you don't even have it figured out. You have
Yeah.
so many hands in it. So oftentimes we can't even, implement what they want. And
Right.
then we turn into an ops type of role of well, you need your SOPs, you need your processes, you need to do it, you need to do it again, document it, those type of things, before we can even have this conversation again. And you're 12 months out
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah,
You know, I,
it's not that quick lever all the time where a lot of people
mhm,
try to make it that elementary,
mhm,
sometimes, but for a lot of the I guess entry level positions
Mhm.
in a lot of industries, it can be that simple. It's starting to become that simple these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I was speaking with a gentleman yesterday that was the head of development for Rolls-Royce out of the UK. And fascinating role, which by the way, I didn't know that Rolls-Royce doesn't own the Rolls-Royce cars. It's actually owned by BMW. Did you know
Really?
that?
No.
No, so BMW pays a licensing fee to put Rolls-Royce on the car. But if you're buying a new Rolls-Royce, you're actually buying BMW. I guess it
Wow.
was years ago that was sold off to the business. So they just build jet engines and massive things airline wise that I had no idea. So I'm like, well, sorry, I'm the idiot, but I didn't know that
That's
one.
interesting. Yeah.
Uh, but they've made the stake in the game. They are not doing AI things. And there's other companies that I've heard that have just are completely turned off to, we get it, we hear it, we're not doing anything with it. And to me, is that a miss? I don't know. Like, let's look at your numbers and find out where there are things you could have or couldn't have, or maybe they're just one of the companies that sit back and watch to see what's coming before they make a decision. But yeah, I mean, there's always the spectrum of doing nothing to doing everything, and then in between. And I think the in betweeners are where there's the biggest risk because you're still like a Roomba making decisions on what do we do today. And I'm always, it's always, if you're not clear on your do's and don'ts, your core values, your cybersecurity is no joke. Yeah, you are at risk.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to keep it much longer, but I do want to
Yeah.
hear from. I know that you have some words of wisdom for our audience. What are some key takeaways or something that to get to where you've gotten to? Maybe not in a certain business, but
Yeah.
to achieve your certain level of success. What are some words of wisdom, some helpful nuggets that you have along the way that you've heard or you've gone through that you can give some parting words to?
Yeah. Um, so probably 7 years ago when I was at Gallup, we were in Omaha. My boss was like, "Hey, somebody's flying into the airport that's a really good friend of Gallup. Can you go pick them up?" I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, "By the way, she's a nun of, I can't remember what group she was a part of." So I was like, "What? What do you mean? Like you don't know where we grew up? Like this is the news that like what, now I'm panicking on like what do I do?" And I would have asked ChatGPT, "What do I do?" It wasn't available then.
Yeah, right.
Uh, and I go pick her up from the airport, and she is just this, I mean, nicest lady in the world. Joanne, if she's listening, she's been great. Christmas card still to this day. She taught me so much about just the basics of people, and the thing she drilled into me is talent falls out of people's mouth every single day. You just got to listen. And I was like, that sounds cool, but I don't really know what that means. So over the years, part of the Gallup training is they teach you on how to listen for talent. If you do nothing else, get really oriented with that because it will change your perspective on, if you think of a coworker you've got had conflict with or just frustrated, it's their talents that are frustrating you because they're naturally doing something that how they think, feel, and behave. And if I can listen to understand what that is, I'll know better more on why there's a rub. So for instance, if you've got somebody that's a maximizer that just takes something and even like think the book Good to Great, where like it's not really great, it's got to be superb or extraordinary. Something that's just an extreme. There's never an appreciation for this is good enough to launch. No, we can do things better. We can do things better. That drives people nuts sometimes. But to me, I'm always like, well, they're a maximizer. Of course they're going to do that. Like the fun questions are, could we do this better? And they're always going to tell you yes, but it changes how I now work with those that I know that are that to say, hey, pencils down Friday at 4. You have until then. Go nuts. Right. And then at 4, we're going to click back in. Or there's just a relief on you're allowed to maximize till this point and then you're all done. Or, you think of those that,
So you put guardrails on it.
yeah. You start to hear, well, here you go. Think of somebody that never shuts up. There's just the constant, there will meet new people. You can throw them any situation in the world that you want. Or it's the person beside you, plane, train, or automobile, that just starts a conversation with you. Amongst what people believe, I am very quiet and outside of when I didn't need to be, and I don't want to talk because I have this. Sometimes ability that somebody will share way too much with me too fast, and I don't care who you are, how long I've known, like we're gonna get into it. And like I have an audible way that I drop a book on a plane to signal I don't want to talk. I have headphones that look like an NFL helmet. I don't want it to, like, we're not gonna happen. It never fails. It always is gonna happen. That's a individualization talent that I'll provoke one question that opens the world up on things that are going to come with it. And I think that's one. So the next conversation, think of, here's a good one to ask. Ask somebody their best success story. You will hear in that people process, but you'll also hear the talents that they have, or, there's a whole yearning for signs for talents we get into another day. But yeah, I'd say that. The other part is you're not going to be an overnight success if you don't put the work into it. And too often do I hear, especially those that are grown up in businesses that are like, well, I want to be this by then. Like, right. I wanted to be in WWF, but that didn't work out for me. But you still have to be willing to put the grind in to get there. And I think the gurus of the world have been exposed. Like Goggins is probably my favorite example of him always saying he hates to run, but he does it every single day. Is kind of the embodiment of, there are some things you're not going to love, but you're going to go through it and get through it because it will build you to more than where you're at.
Yeah. Creating that self-discipline. And Goggins is a great one. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on, Adam, and sharing some words of wisdom in your story. Where can people learn more about you and things that you're up to?
Yeah. LinkedIn's my spot. I got suspended when it was Twitter, long because I didn't post, I guess, or I don't know. So I quit that. I don't get Instagram, so I don't do it. LinkedIn's the spot where I'll get into conversations. I do stay in my lane. So if it's HRODLND, I'll go there with you any day of the week. If you message me, I'll give you a Google Voice number. I'll say, just call, let's chat, better than to go back and forth on a keyboard. If you disagree with me, share it, because I'm not doing this for fun. I think that's the only way we can get some conversations rolling. If you've got a product to sell, wait for our RFP, please. I will not respond to you on LinkedIn, but happy to read what you said. I just likely will not respond. But that's the space that I'm at.
Gotcha. Love it. Well, I appreciate all the time.
Yeah, you got
And you know what? I'm gonna one thing I want to make sure I say. You kind of referenced it a little bit earlier, but something in our area. And you're the first person, a second person we had on here that kind of grew up near us. But I think our high school years, I think the teachers that we had were absolutely amazing. At that school at Crestview where we're at, there's some of the teachers that last a long lasting impression, and you can talk to anybody in like maybe a 10-year window that had them, that we went through, and they always bring up one of maybe 4 or 5 different names, and I know you probably know who that group of teachers are, that just helped along the way, or saw something. In my specific case, it was multiple teachers saw something in me that I didn't see.
Yeah.
And they overlooked all the stupid shit I was doing, and didn't care about. And they're like, Mr. Cross, you need to do this, Mr. Cross, and kind of, very strategically, and delicately kept me on some sort of road. But I think that was something huge, and I'm glad you brought it up. But because I think for us, I think it was a huge element for us is that those teachers.
Yeah, when people talk inclusion, I always say they are the poster child there of what that was. Do you remember Mrs. Helly?
For sure. She still sends my wife Christmas cards.
I still talk to her. She still texts on the day. Yeah, I still keep up with. She was here maybe like a year ago or so. And during COVID, we were checking in with her on, like, do you have groceries? Do you have what you need? She was a huge influence and has stayed connected. So I think no surprise. I mean, she's a teacher, but great managers and leaders do the exact same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Adam, appreciate you. Continued success. Anything you need from me along the way, hit me up. Listeners, subscribe, more great content, follow along, and follow, go find Adam over on LinkedIn. Great follow. Jump in to see what he's up to for speaking. And also, we didn't even get into your book whatsoever. Next time.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.